Hi everyone, Aaron here for zollotech, and this previous week there was a lot of information released all the way up to today about new leaks on the iPhone 12, its display, iOS 14, watchOS 7, and maybe even some AR glasses. Now there's some new information from people like Mark Gurman, Max Weinbeck, Everything Apple Pro, and John Prosser, as well as some others, and I always link my references in the description as well. And so the first bit of information has to do with the iPhone 12 Pro and iPhone 12 Pro Max. And you can expect the 120 Hz ProMotion display from the iPad Pro that we have here to come to the new iPhone 12 Pro. And so you can see how buttery smooth it is. It's hard to convey through a camera like this, but if you've used one in person, it's just super smooth and it ramps up the speed and slows back down just to make the whole experience smoother and save some battery. But also another way to gain some battery in the next version will be a larger battery, according to some people. So it looks like there will be a larger 4400 milliamp hour battery, somewhere in that size, to make it even larger and better battery life than the iPhone 11 Pro Max that I have here, and that would be welcomed, especially since the next generation will have a 5G modem in it. And 5G, just like when 4G came out, uses more power. So you would be able to hopefully turn that off if you want to, maybe to reduce some power, but 5G technology does use a little bit more power depending on which type you're using, such as millimeter wave as opposed to sub-6. Some of those can use more power, and so you need a larger battery to get you through the day. And then finally, with the iPhone 12, we do expect it to have a LiDAR sensor like I've mentioned before, but that LiDAR sensor would help with better autofocus as well as a 3x zoom camera that would help with improved zoom. A lot of people, including Samsung, are really putting these huge zoom cameras in there, and they're okay, but they get really blurry at some of the 100x, for example, zooms. And so expect it to have better zoom than it does now, maybe faster capability, and maybe not just 2x zoom, but 3x. So we can expect that with the next iPhone. Now with iOS 14, expect there still to be a list view. So for example, if you have your Apple Watch here, you go to your apps, you can have them in a list view. Expect that sort of thing to come to iOS 14. And I've mentioned that before, but also according to Spotify, it seems like Apple is going to open up more to set applications as default. So instead of having Apple Music set up as your default music app, you would have Spotify, or maybe you could switch it from Safari to Chrome or Firefox. And it seems like this may come to iOS 14. Now, we've talked about this before, but it seems like it's going to be more of a certain thing since you've got CEOs of Spotify that may know about this. There's been some lawsuits about this, so I would expect Apple to add that. Now, along with the Activity app, expect a new Fitness app as well. And I have mentioned this, but we keep hearing this again. So expect a Fitness app to go along with your Activity app to maybe show you different workouts and things like that. What that will actually entail, we'll have to wait and see for, but it looks like there will be some sort of Fitness app. And then the thing I'm looking most forward to has to do with messages. Now within iMessage, there definitely seems to be consensus that we will see iOS 14 bring retraction of messages we've already sent. So what that means is maybe we sent a message that we didn't mean to, we mistyped it, we sent it to the wrong person, we would be able to retract that message after we sent it. Now I would imagine this would only be in iMessage and not to SMS, as I'm not sure there's a way to do that. But it seems like other iPhones, Macs, iPads, and things like that, you could pull that message back, and I would really welcome that. Also, with group texting, it seems like there will be better ways to identify who is speaking and who you're talking to. So for example, if you had maybe your family like I do, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, any of those people, aunts, uncles, you could identify while typing to them who you're typing to specifically within that group chat. And also, people would be able to see who's typing within that group chat. So maybe you have 10 different people in there. I have group chats like that. Maybe you could see who's typing to you during that group chat. That's supposedly going to be in iOS 14, and I would welcome it if it's there. Now, also, it seems like there's going to be updates to Keychain to make it more like a real password manager, also with two-factor authentication passwords. So for those of you that use passwords and accounts, you would be able to use your Keychain in here, but with additional information. And so that would be nice if you don't use a password manager such as LastPass or 1Password, things like that. You would have more granular control and additional features. And then also, augmented reality seems to be getting more and more attention at Apple, where you would be able to maybe overlay augmented reality over an object. So it seems like there's going to be an augmented reality app. I've mentioned this before, but again, it keeps being brought up and it seems to go along with what I'm going to talk about next. But you could put your iPhone camera over, say, your iPad that's back here, and then identify what's inside of it. Kind of like Apple does during different keynote events where they showed off the Mac Pro, they could actually show you what the inside of it looks like by using augmented reality. They also do this at their campus if you visit their campus in California, where you can actually see what it looks like inside their building using augmented reality through iPads. So we would see more of that there. And this goes along with additional information we've seen from John Prosser on a previous podcast I was listening to, where he talked about new AR glasses that are still in the works. He's seen two versions, apparently black and white versions, that will have notifications and overlays of things within those Apple glasses. And instead of being sort of industrial or kind of goofy looking like Google Glass, they would look more stylish, of course, which I would expect from Apple, and then have notifications. And something that's really interesting is when Apple announced WWDC this previous week, they showed an image where one of the people was wearing glasses and there was a notification bubble in it. There's not really a need to have that notification on those glasses, but it appears that there is, and so maybe they're hinting at something. So I look forward to that. It would be great to be able to wear glasses and have it overlay things, especially for directions with maps and things like that. One other thing that John Prosser mentioned was Apple is working on a new Apple logo, and that doesn't necessarily mean they'll change it completely. Apple has slightly tweaked it over the years where they've made it a flat color, a mirror color, all sorts of things, and so it looks like Apple's going to change that again. Now, many people have been waiting for Apple to get rid of OLED that have at least messaged me that have issues with PWM or pulse width modulation flicker bothering their eyes, asking when is Apple going to switch to micro LED displays or mini LED. Mini LED only affects the backlight, and I would expect those in 2021, according to Mark Gurman. So mini LED would help with the backlight being more consistent, more like OLED, but not OLED displays. And then micro LED is a newer technology that may take a little bit longer to see in phones, but expect more of that information in 2021. Now, according to John Prosser, the over-the-ear AirPods are still in the works and may have the name AirPods Studio. However, John Prosser says expect them to come in at about $349 in the fall or autumn. So expect that then later on, maybe around the time of the launch of the iPhone 12, we should see something like that. And they should have interchangeable pads and maybe a band that you can change out. Now with watchOS 7, expect something to do with panic attacks. Maybe it will sense that sort of thing and help you with anxiety and panic attacks through breathing, where it would pop up an app and help you breathe just like it does today with breathing. Also expect an O2 sensor on the next version of Apple Watch. We've expected this for a while, and it seems like Apple's going to include that. Now there's a few more pieces of information about AirPods 3 or whatever they're called being ready to ship, as well as a new iMac, but whether or not that iMac has a full redesign is hard to say. And then finally, it looks like Apple TV is ready to ship, but they just haven't shipped it yet, and it has an A12Z processor in it, just like we would expect. So it basically has the same CPU as this iPad Pro from 2020. That's a lot of information very quickly, but I would expect iOS 13.5 to come out either tomorrow or Wednesday or possibly the following week. It's really hard to say, but it looks like iOS 13.5 is very close as well. That's it for this week's releases. Let me know if you're planning to pick up an iPhone 12 in the comments below. And of course, if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description as I always do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.